Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream are made possible by the generous support of PNC and the Raskin Family Fund, with additional funding from Robert Conrad, Cleveland State University, the Chautauqua Institution, the Cleveland Clinic, and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. I'm Patrick Arthofer. I'm part of the team establishing the first ever college forum in the City Club of Cleveland. I'm so glad to see many of you here today to hear from our panel consisting of Anna Matos, Councilman Bashir Jones, Brent Wesley, and Anna Francis and Francis Mills. Our forum today is part of the community-engaged academic work we do at the Jack Joseph and Morton Mandel Humanities Center at Cuyahoga Community College and the Mandel Honors College at Cleveland State University. We have been working together with Dan Malthrop and our professors to put together a conversation that answers in part these questions. Why does soda cost less than water at the corner store? This is not an idle question. In fact, when you consider it, you quickly see that it speaks to a set of issues about economics, community health, and public policy. And it seems to suggest some unsavory truths about our society. These places in which unhealthy food options are more accessible than healthy food options have come to be known as food deserts. And while the metaphor helps us to understand the absence of healthy food options, it suggests that some sort of natural process is the cause. And that is far from the case, as our panelists today will no doubt discuss. In fact, healthy food deserts develop in areas where the investment interest of both the government and private companies wasn't high enough. Healthy food deserts are present all over the United States, even close to where we eat lunch today, in Cleveland neighborhoods such as Central and Howe. Places like this always seem to consist of corner stores and fast food restaurants that offer a quick snack for a small price with little or no lasting benefit. These circumstances raise questions about the reasons and the impact of low quality diets on people and our society. We encourage everyone today to play with the thought of possible solutions which have positive impact on our society. Leading our conversation today is my colleague and fellow scholar, Kevin Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, members and friends of the City Club of Cleveland, please join me in welcoming him, further introduce our panelists.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Jones, a member of the Mandel Honors Cohort from Tri-C Eastern Campus. And before us, we have Bashir Jones, City of Cleveland Councilman for Ward 7, Anna Thornton Matos, Reach Project Manager in the Prevention Research Center for Healthy Neighborhoods at Case Western Reserve University. We have Ms. Francis Mills, Director of Community Health Initiatives for the Cleveland Office of Minority Health, Healthy Cleveland, and Brent Wesley, CEO and founder of the Akron Honey Company. Thank you all for being here. In short, I would like to just say that these esteemed panelists before us have many unique qualities that show their individuality, but what is so very special about this group of individuals is their dedication to the communities and neighborhoods they serve in, from entrepreneurship, the halls of city council, state-funded organizations that combat mental health issues, as well as organizations that work to alleviate the burdens of chronic diseases. The diversity represented by this panel is synonymous with the diversity of our audience in person and online. The over and underlying issues behind soda being cheaper than water forces us all to dive deeper into the dynamics of how did we get here, what are we currently facing, and Finally, what does our future look like in the best and worst case scenarios? Today, we will all be diving deeper into this topic. Our hope is to leave you all informed about this issue in a way that allows you to be engaged, whether through dialogue or by taking action in your very own communities. There's one objective from this meeting today, and our objective is to inform our audience that there are issues in our local neighborhoods that are in dire need of education and change. We believe that through this medium, we will be able to see this topic through multiple perspectives, and because of the diverse perspectives we employ, our solutions to these issues will be diverse and versatile as we seek change. Thank you all again for being here. First and foremost, I just want to say that our range of speakers here is very diverse, as I've just said, but in that, each person has experienced this issue from their own frame. I'd like to open up the floor to Mr. Wesley, being that you're the farthest away from me. Do you have any firsthand experiences from the past, present, or future in the issue of why is soda cheaper than water at the corner store?
Yeah, past and present, definitely. In the past, although I live in Akron now, I was born to East 93rd and Gaylord, and I often remember, like my entire family lived over there, you know, along East 93rd. So I remember very vividly the corner stores having fast and cheap stuff that you can consume, you know, and how that trickles down to the actual educating the children on how to consume. I remember very vividly, we were playing in, myself and a few of my friends, we were playing in someone's driveway, and one of my friends said, "This is how you clean your teeth," and he brings out a packet of High C, and it mixes it with water and just like starts drinking and just starts washing out his mouth like mouthwash. And it was like normal, you know what I mean? It was really normal. You know, I remember walking around being chased by a dog around the corner, and the corner store was always had somebody in there, but they never had like healthy options. They never ever, you know. So, you know, there's a consumer side to it, there's a business side to it. That's a whole different, that's an entire, this is not an easy and short, fast conversation to have and thing to dive through. But if you fast forward to now, so, you know, with Akron Honey was never meant to be a business. It was, you know, it started just with a vacant lot and, you know, learn how to keep bees. But when I found out was that it drew certain people in, a lot of kids it drew in, folks from the school community it drew in. And I visiting those schools, I found that there was a lack of education of like where even food came from. Not just where food came from, but what you could actually do in your neighborhood to spur economic growth. So, you know, I've always found it very commonplace when I go to schools that we think of as like urban schools that have a lot of black and brown children there. They're surprised to see that I own a business. They're surprised to see what they can do. They don't know where food comes from. But when you start educating them, then they start seeing the possibilities, and that's when they can start actually, you know, making that change. So possibly making better buying decisions. Of course, it take more than just like, you know, one person telling them, but making better buying decisions and even reinvesting their time and reimagining what they see in their own communities. You know, this vacant lot is not a vacant lot. It's actually an open air movie theater or something, or it's a really, really big thing to think about and to tackle, because, you know, we were just talking about backstage. We're talking about backstage where it's great. Yeah, I think that is backstage in the green room. We were just kind of talking about, you know, how big this thing is and how business driven it is. If you talk about the economics of, you know, why soda is more than pop, well, you know, businesses see that people are more able and willing to spend their disposable income on that thing. But at the same time, you know, there's a consumer side to it where we are thinking, well, I have to have that thing, for whatever reason. Maybe it's because we don't know that the importance of the ingredients. We don't understand the impact of what we're actually consuming. But I think that it would, one of the little things that need to, big things, but it's, in scope is smaller, that needs to change is like the intention of business. Like I'm a social entrepreneur, through and through. It's like, I could have made millions by now, but it's not about that. It's about like figuring out how to lift as you climb. And I think a lot of business owners aren't like that. And that's kind of what keeps our economy where it's, capitalism. It's everyone praises it, but it's, it's not great for everybody,
Would anyone else like to pick up?
Yeah, I like to jump in. I was just at a store the other day, and when I go into a store in my neighborhood at Ward 7, I like to buy things for the kids, I just like to have that relationship with them. So I told one of the young guys, I said, go get something to drink, man. Go get something to drink. So he comes back with this big juice, 0% fruit juice, You know these drinks I'm talking about, where it's not a flavor, it's a color. The purple drink, it says, or the red drink, or the green drink. But we know in our mind this means cherry, or this means grape, or whatever the case may be. So I said, no, go back and get something else. So he goes back and he gets some soda. And then he goes back and he gets this. I said, listen, this is what I took him back. I had to take him back there and say, get this type of juice if you want juice, or get this water. But these drinks are the drinks that are the cheapest. And at the same time, it is something that we enjoy, even though it's not the best for us. One of the things that we're doing in Ward 7, and actually we're doing it today, when I got into office 6 months ago, the first thing that we had to do was acknowledge that our people are starving. We had to first acknowledge that. You know this Maslow hierarchy of needs, and the very base of it is food. The first thing we tell our students before a test is, make sure you get something to eat before you come here, right? But many of them don't have anything to eat. And I want people to understand that, because if you look at the what, you're going to think that black and brown people are a bunch of animals. That's what you're going to think. But if you look at the why, then you'll be able to come up with these answers. How is it possible that you can go to some schools in the inner city and the majority have IEPs or have learning disabilities? But then you go into some neighborhoods, you have some neighborhoods where I have a neighborhood, one block in my neighborhood, where the majority of houses are abandoned. What's the air quality like in neighborhoods? This is something that I want you to think about, because then you'll begin to see that there is a real issue that's bigger than just the people who live there that it has to address. Every last one of us has to address this issue and feel like it impacts us, because it does. And if you don't have just a humanity, like I just want to help human beings, if that doesn't bother you, then there's a financial burden on us as a community for having to send these people into our jail institutions. So I close with this on this statement to say, today, for example, we partner with the Cleveland Food Bank. Since I've been in office, every month we give out 30,000 pounds of food. 30,000 pounds of food, of fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, fresh poultry, so forth and so on. The first thing we did was we opened up a food distribution center. So now, if you're hungry, you don't have to be hungry. You can come on down here to the food distribution center. You can come here on emergency days and get some rice and get some cabbage and get some food. Now, once you are being fed, then I can bring about your best self. Now I can tap into your creativity. I can tap into your social consciousness. But when you're hungry, you ain't thinking about being conscious. All you're thinking about is what? Eating, surviving. And I think that this is something that we have to be mindful of, that people are starving. Of course, spiritually they're starving. We're all starving mentally and spiritually. But first you got to take care of the physical. And I think that's extremely important.
I agree with that, Councilman. People are not only starving, they're thirsty. And so both you and Brent raised some very important questions that individuals don't even know how food is produced. And so we could start a conversation about what is food, because we're living in a time where food is altered and engineered, and we think when we go into a grocery store that we're buying food, we're buying an apple, but it may be a genetically engineered apple. And so when we begin to talk about the basics of water, for me, with the Office of Minority Health, we focus specifically on health disparities, particularly among communities of color. So in this community, that means African Americans, Asians, Native Americans, and Latino Americans. Those are the populations that are impacted the most, whether we're talking about water, whether we're talking about food, and it manifests itself in health conditions. And so when we see populations, if you live in the state of Ohio and you're an African American, you are 77 times more likely to have diabetes. That's a sobering statistic. If you're African American or Latino, 36 to 40% of girls are obese. And it's all related to this food issue. Why is it cheaper to buy something that's unhealthy versus buying something healthy for something that should be free, water? Because it's an industry. It's an industry. We're consuming massive amounts of sugary beverages a year, but we're also consuming massive amounts of bottled water because there's a reverse effect. As health proponents say, don't drink juice, don't drink soda, don't drink diet soda. It has an impact on these markets out there. And so in return, we see marketing that happens. It makes water look really attractive, and that's a good thing. But is it a good thing at $2.50 a bottle, $3 a bottle, $4 a bottle? We were sitting at the table talking. Sometimes you're in a store and you're looking at a bottle and you say, for example, Voss. Beautiful glass bottle. Yes, I'll pay $4 for that because it looks really cool. And so, but there's an impact. And so where soda companies may be losing dollars on sugary beverages, they're gaining dollars because of the price of water that's so high. And so what organizations like public health departments and the Office of Minority Health, we look at the systemic issues on why that is. And so I'll be the first to raise the issue around the elephant in the room, which is structural racism. What happens in our urban communities would not be allowed to happen in other communities. And so that's the past and the present that I bring to the table in terms of my working knowledge of that issue.
And structural racism, but then also the divestment in the communities. And Councilman Jones, I want you to talk at some point about your land bank idea that you guys are doing in Ward 7, because what we see in the work that we do at the PRC, and we work with corner store owners in 7 neighborhoods within the east side of Cleveland and the city of East Cleveland to help them understand that they need to have healthier food in their corner stores, because there are people that do actually shop there for food. You know, a lot of people are able to leave their communities and go elsewhere for the things that they eat, but some people can't. So there's a food access issue too. So that's sort of the angle that we work on. And so we encourage the corner stores owners to bring healthier foods into their stores, but they don't live in the neighborhoods, right? And there is a distrust between the community residents and the store owners, and it's there for a reason, you know. So we have to sort of think about that relationship first, and how we even begin the conversation before we can even get the corner store owners to say, no, this community deserves to eat healthier, you know?
That's powerful. Can I just jump in?
By
It's
all
like
means, sir.
double Dutch. You gotta just jump in. This is really important because in my first 6 months in office, it's just been focused on building bridges. bridges where didn't exist before and bridges that was burned down. So we got to just rebuild. And my neighborhood is on the cusp of Cleveland Clinic. And, but yet and still we have the highest infant mortality rates right there. Some higher than some third world countries, right in the Huff neighborhood, St. Clair Superior, right there. Is it because the clinic just doesn't care about people? I don't think so. I just think that we have to build bridges and we have to make people care about us. And I was talking to some residents just yesterday and I said, now the same store that you're complaining about, you go and spend your money in there. Now what sense does that make? But sometimes when you're surviving, you'll put up with a bad attitude to get some food, right? But we have to show our resilience and say, you know what, we're not going to support this neighborhood and support this corner store, and we're not going to spend our money here either. And we have to do those type of things. So in closing, you know, I think this is really important that we have to work with institutions. We have to work with Cleveland Clinic. University Hospital is, if you go down Chester, that's our area. University Hospital is getting ready to build a brand new hospital there right next to Dave's Supermarket, right? They're going to be doing fresh fruits and fresh vegetables and classes and demonstrations in partnership with the institutions. So I think that here in our city, many times what we're doing is everybody is fighting the right cause, but people don't like to work together. So now everybody is going in one direction fighting the cause, but we're fighting it in different directions. And we just have to work together. One of the things that we're doing in the ward is not only building bridges, but we can't continue to allow people to come in neighborhoods like this, own the land, build, and then leave out the people who are around. So one thing that we're working on right now in Ward 7 is creating a community land trust. So now we're saying, you can't purchase the land no more. You can lease the land from us, but you can't own the land. That's number one. Number two, because it's not just about giving construction jobs, because that's not sufficient to ending generational poverty, right? Generational poverty is not just a mindset, but it's also a reality. So number two, what we're telling developers and businesses, the community should be able to invest in whatever this development is. So set aside a percentage that can go towards shares for community investment. I don't care if Grandma Johnson want to give $1 or somebody want to give $20,000. Let the community own a portion of that. What does that do for the community? When they see it, they see themselves. Now also, number three, if you build a new building here, the community gets a chance to name what the name of that building is going to be. You can't come and bring a building into our community and name it after somebody that don't look like the people in that community. All of these things create ownership within the people who are there. It creates this sense of generational wealth, and it changes the mindset of the people to say that this also belongs to me. And I think that, and you know what? These developers who've been coming in, they haven't been fighting against it. They've been, they want to make money, right? So you're not going to fight too hard against it. But people have been really excited about it. So, thank you.
Yeah, please.
I think that you just hit on something very just astronomical, and that's mindset, and that's what you're trying to do is just to slowly transform. You're going to be dead and gone before it's where you want it to be. Like, we're not going to be here. It takes a long time to change mindset. Just imagine what if the mindset of those folks who lived in these certain neighborhoods who had the $3 bottles of water and 50 cents non-fruit juice. What if they all of a sudden had to change heart and said, you know what, this is unhealthy for me, and this other vacant lot over here. Let me talk to my councilman what we can do about it, and that's seeing them. That's great. I may move to your ward. I may move to Cleveland.
While you were talking, I was just thinking, we need some bees in Ward 7, man. So I'm going to talk to you about that. Because I think that'd be powerful.
Right. But it's not just the mindset of the citizen, the consumer. It's mindset of the folks who controlling the regulations, the businesses. Would we have this issue with infant mortality in your ward if the Cleveland Clinic had a social entrepreneur, like 3 of them on the boards, they'd be able to look around and see like, well, there's a real big problem here. I know that we're worried about margins, but what about the social capital here? What about what's right? What about these folks who have been forgotten? You know, I think it's got to be duality when it comes to a mindset shift. It's got to be.
Yeah. And I think we have to force people to care about us. You know, like I was talking with the CEO, I just met the new CEO of Cleveland Clinic, and we had a chance to and I said, you know what, I would love for you to walk around this community with me. Like, you know, people are really busy. So I understand it's a ton of things going on, but it's the squeaky wheel that gets the, what's the,
The grease.
that thing, you know what I'm talking about, that oil, whatever. So, you know, so right now we're planning a walkthrough. What I did recently, what we did, my team, I have an amazing team, is that you have a lot of the housing in the ward that's owned by people who don't live there. So what I did was I called some of the owners who they live in Connecticut, New York, California, and I said, you better come and walk this community with me. And if you don't come and walk this community with me in the next week or two, any growth that you want to have in this community, it ain't gonna happen. Man, I'll start getting phone calls all over the place, man. So I've had, and these are great people, but no one ever asked them. So they walked around with me. I said, we need safety cameras here. We need cameras here. Now, you got this camera right here. Where is it connected to? I don't know. Well, why you got the camera on the building and you don't even know what it's connected to, right? So we have to make people care about us and care about our growth and our success. And I think that that's the key. The commanders, the police commanders, they've walked with me in the community. So now, the police, I want you to work with the community. This is not the Gaza Strip, okay? This is not an occupied people. All right, you're here to serve and protect the people, not to make them feel as if they can't trust you. So it's about building. So what I did was last week, I'm still a Cavaliers fan, by the way. I know we're still Cavs fans. Yeah, thank you. I am wearing the Cavs colors. Wow. Hopefully LeBron doesn't leave. But anyway, I wish him well. But I know we all feel that way. We just win some championships. But anyway, we rented out a big 25-foot screen and watched the game in front of Thurgood Marshall Recreation Center. The whole community came out. The cops pulled up. Everybody started getting nervous. I said, relax. They're here to watch the game, you know? But that is our community. Everybody is they're so divided that we think that everyone is against us. And as I tell them, just because somebody look like you don't mean they for you. And just because someone doesn't look like you don't mean that they're against you. So now I'm just trying to change that mindset to say we all can work together. And I think that's the key to our success.
Yes, please.
Well, I don't think that, yes, we have to teach people how to treat us, but I also think that you raise some very important issues around who's responsible. And we're all responsible. We're responsible at a systems level. We're responsible at a personal level. And we're responsible to make changes from a policy perspective. When we talk about corner stores specifically, and a question was raised at one of our city council meetings, well, why is it that these corner stores only sell unhealthy things? Well, before a liquor license is signed, a council person signs off on that and approves that. And so the types of things that you're describing are just the beginning that communities need in order to look at those complex issues of how do we use land in our community. But then we also have to own the fact that there has been systemic lack of policy that has allowed these things to occur historically over time. And so how do you fight against the bottom line? You know, my faith tells me the love of money is the root of all evil. And so every business is in business to make money. And so how do you continue to attract business folks in your communities if you say, well, you can't sell those fiery Cheetos, and you can't sell beer and wine, and you can't. And so part of it is about how do we begin to model healthy behavior and practices, not just me doing it, but you doing it, or what we're compelled to offer in our school buildings, in our city buildings. What if we only offered water as a beverage for individuals that, no, you're not going to get Gatorade, you're not going to get diet soda, you're not going to get High C, you're going to get water. And how do we market it just as strongly as the big marketing firms to say, you really need this drink, you really need this new thing, we have to have health promotion campaigns that focus on putting it out there to people that this is unhealthy. If we don't know what food is and we don't know what's healthy, how can we begin to embrace those things? So how do we begin to both market and model health in a way that is received by the larger community?
That's a good point.
I'd love to hear some research that might have been done in regards to prospective marketing to certain communities that are conflicted by this.
Well, I mean, we don't do a lot of work around like market research, but I think the theme I'm hearing here is one of accountability. So accountability from people that are invested in the community. So who is owning the buildings? Who are the big industries? Who are the big players in the community? You know, they need to be held accountable for how they're moving in the community. The corner store owners, again, what they're selling in the stores. You know, they need to be held accountable by the people that live there. You know, so there is this, you know, how do we you know, elevate the idea of eating healthily because it benefits everyone in all different ways, their communities, ourselves. And then from that basis of knowledge, then the community is empowered then to hold these institutions accountable and these corner stores accountable.
I went into one corner store recently. I like to do this, and there was a whole shelf of bread that was expired. I couldn't believe it. And then you had another shelf over here of yogurt that was expired. I could not believe it, and it is disrespectful. So 4 years ago, I ran for office, and I lost by 600 votes. Did you know that, Dr. Mills? 600 votes. I ran again and won by 13 votes. You talking stress, huh? My God. But 4 years ago, I went into a store in my area, right next to where you live, Khalif, off of 89th, I believe, in Superior. And I walked inside the store, and I had a conversation with the owner. And it ended up on the news, by the way. And but they were saying that it was because the owner was supporting my person I was going against, but really it was about their lack of respect for the people of that neighborhood. And that's what's happening. You have store owners who they don't have respect. I mean, we went to one, so this is what we did. As soon as I got into office, I created a letter, and this letter went out to all businesses. Hey, I'm your councilman, I'm happy to work with you, but if you don't get your act together, we're gonna try our best to shut you down. And because you look outside of these stores, filth, man, trash on the ground, no respect for the people. So what they'll say to me, well, the people did it. Well, no, it's your business. Clean this business up. You go inside, now in our gas stations, you don't just go there for gas now. You can go there for dinner, brother. Okay, you can get chicken, you can get sandwiches, you know what I'm talking about. You can get sandwiches, chicken, and all that. So now, in New York, you know, every business, you go there, they have a big sign on the door. A or B, or you know, they have this grading system, and we need something like that here as well in these businesses. And for those who don't, as you said, Dr. Mills, you know, because I've canceled plenty of liquor licenses in the area. I don't drink anyway, so I'm like, well, good, because we got too many in our neighborhood anyway. But now what we're doing is for these businesses is we're making them sign basically agreements that we'll give you this liquor license this year. But you got to do this. It got to be cleaned. It got to be this. It got to be that. And if you don't follow that, well, you might as well look for another place to do business. And as you said, that's where leadership comes in. Can I be honest, Dan? You sure?
That's why we invited you.
Oh, man. One of the biggest issues, I do agree. Institutional racism is here. It's alive and kicking. No doubt about it. If you say it's not, I don't know what you're looking at. But the child of institutional racism is self-hate. Some of the biggest issues in urban areas is urban leadership. It's urban leadership. And I learned that, and I'm seeing that. Because we think that, some of the people in our community think that the council person just makes sure the trash is taken care of. Or make sure that the raccoons, you know, we got some superhuman raccoons now, man. My God, they are huge. You know, they don't even run from you anymore. My God, they like, come on over here. But, you know, so the community calls and they think that the council person just does these little things, not knowing that the council person is signing off on multi-million-dollar deals. But they don't know that. Maybe because in some situations, it's better to keep the people ignorant than to give them knowledge. It's better to keep the people not knowing all that you do so that you can do things in the dark. I'm telling you what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing that urban leadership plays a major part in the condition of where people are. So what I'm seeing is that as I'm working with the Cleveland Clinics and working with university hospitals, they want to be of assistance. That's what I'm seeing right now. I was meeting with Dr. Snyder the other day from Case Western Reserve. And I said, you know, there's a scholarship. I don't know if you know this. If you are from Cleveland, you go to a Cleveland school, and you graduate from a Cleveland school, and you get into Case Western Reserve, you can get a full scholarship. Did you all know that already? You sound like you know that. You're going to Case Western. Look at that. A full, yeah, everybody sign up now. It's a full scholarship. But who knows that? Who knows that? Because what's happening is, and I close with this, well, I won't, but what's happening is that there's leadership that tells the people, you know, these institutions want to take you over. They want to take you over. They want to move you out. They want to move. So now the people are scared. No. We don't want, but growth is happening all around them, and the people are not being included. Because when you keep the people ignorant and keep them in the dark, then whatever you do for them and you give them crumbs, they are very excited about it. They're very happy about it. Not even knowing that there's a full cake that they can benefit from. When we do community benefits agreements with developers, we need more than just a park, okay? A park is not sufficient. And you're doing a $100 million project and you build a park for us and you think that that's sufficient for us. No more. It ain't happening in Ward 7. And I say ain't, okay? I don't care. It's not happening in Ward 7 where you're going to come and do a $100 million project and think that you can give my community a park and some swings and that's going to affect generational poverty. No, we need not just temporary jobs, but permanent ones. We need the people to be invested in. We need our children to be able to go to school for free. And we need for our parents and our mothers and our grandparents to have access to health care. That is what's going to transform a community. If we are going to be leaders in this city of Cleveland, it can't just be for this time. If we're not doing something that's going to impact us 100 years from now, then we ain't living. Everything that we do must have an impact on our great-great-great-great-grandchildren. And if it doesn't, then that means that we're not dreaming big enough, honestly.
Wow. So with that, and I know that might be a lot to try to reach the bar to, but that brings me to my next question of the future. What are some ideas, some thoughts? We heard from policymaker here, which thank you very much, very fiery. What are some ideas from your perspectives that we might be able to employ for the future to enact that change for our great-great-great-great-grandchildren? Okay.
That's where it should start. It should start, you know, it's 2018, so let's project out 50 years and just work backwards. What do we, I'm like a business plan almost, but which I'm not good at anyway, but so I'm not like, you know, I'm an expert with it, but you just work backwards and insert all the pieces based on like conversations like this, insert all the pieces that are viable and need to happen. Because like there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. I mean, we've just been here for, you know, what, 40 minutes or whatever. A lot needs to happen. Can't do everything, but there are a lot of things that we can do to approach the idea of respecting the community much more, changing and transforming mindset. And there's so many different ways to do it. I was in Detroit like 5 years ago, and you know, they had some tough times, obviously, but they're rebounding. And you know, as a result of their tough times, they had entire blocks that were demolished. But what was interesting was what they were doing with these entire blocks. They started farming on the entire blocks, but it wasn't just how they're farming or what they're farming. It was like, you know, the process. So at any time, someone from the community can come down and just pick whatever they want, and they got fresh food. But the folks who are actually doing this work, I ran into a young lady, and she had her hands pretty deep in there, and she was busy, and I was trying to talk to her, and she stopped for a second, showed me around, and she's like, yeah, I still work in corporate America, and I'm like, oh, cool. But I came to find out later, she didn't tell me, but I found out she was like a vice president of a bank. Wow. And I'm like, that's mindset, like you're serving these people. So, transforming the mindset, not just of, the folks who are in the community, but also on the corporate level, folks who have power of influence. Because when folks start, like people in the neighborhood start seeing that people care about them, that trust is built, and then they can start reinvesting in their own community. Hopefully they can reinvest in their own community. It's that mindset. But that's a really hard thing to, because a lot of mindsets have to be changed at the same time. You've got corporate mindset, folks who are owning the businesses. You've got people in the community. You've got to trust that parents are teaching their kids these things and are exposing them to what, this plan that's trying to be formulated. There's so many things, so many. Not to get all dreary and grim, but literally there's a lot. A lot. And I'll say it again, and I say it all the time about what I do. I'm gonna be dead and gone by the time anything that I want to come to fruition actually happens. You just have to be okay with it. 50 years from now, I'll still be here. But you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
One of the buzzwords that is occurring in the community over the last 2 or 3 years has been this whole notion of perspective transformation. How do we get people to see situations differently? And so change for me happens at an exposure, education, and policy perspective. And so you expose individuals with the reality. Certainly, Cleveland is a great place to live. One of the challenges that we had, that the councilman so eloquently said, is that we don't know about all the benefits that are available to us. A significant portion of my life is spent going out to communities and saying, hey, this is what your health looks like in your community as it relates to cancer, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, the things that are killing communities of color. This is what it looks like. Most communities are appalled. Well, why is this happening? Well, what can we do? And so the community at the grassroots level, they're begging to be engaged, begging to be included in making decisions about their own destiny. And so those things have to continue, as well as having strong policies that said, no, you will not do this in our community, or yes, we will promote local production of fruits and vegetables. That has to be built in. How do we get things from farm to table? How do we expand community gardening? How do we do all of those things that will strengthen communities versus going out to buy something to bring it in that continues to harm people? And so education, advocacy, policy, and enlightenment in terms of this people. I don't know people who say, oh, I want to have a bad life. I've not met that person yet. All of us are hardwired to want to be free, want to live life without poverty, want to be able to attain things and to give to those that we raise up behind us. And so in order to do that, it's a shame that we live in a community in pockets of the city of Cleveland, we see 36%, 40% poverty. And so health is not I made some individual decisions and now my health is all messed up. There are a whole series of factors that are impacting individual health. We've established in this community that where you live determines often how long you will live. And so being able to address what we call in my business social determinants of health, how do we reduce poverty? How do we do those things that will create environments that enable people to live? I mean, if you don't have a job, that's a stressor that is going to impact your health. If you don't have a home, if you live in a community that's unsafe. And so we have to continue to ramp up those efforts to educate, elevate, hold accountable so that people can have an opportunity to live their best health life possible.
Thank you very much. In closing, I'd like to finish off with any remarks towards the future that you might have for us.
Well, I mean, I think we need to elect more people like Bashir. Absolutely, with that vision. And just, I mean, I think for me, it's the community owning the community. You know, we say what happens in our communities because we are invested and we own it. We have to stop the wealth extraction and the resource extraction from our communities. And that's the way that it's done, is that we own our communities. You know, we pool our capital together for our benefit.
Thank you very much. So, this concludes our panel portion. And again, my name is Kevin Jones, and I'm a scholar with the Jack Joseph Mandel Honor Society from Tri-C. Today, we came together to discuss why is soda cheaper than water? And in that, we found multiple different dynamics through the very diverse perspectives that I had listed before. I just want to thank my panelists again, Bashir Jones, City Councilman Ward 7, Anna Thornton-Matos, REACH Project Manager in the Prevention Research Center for Healthy Neighborhoods at Case Western Reserve University, Francis Mills, Director of Community Health Initiatives for the Cleveland Office of Minority Health, and lastly, Brent Wesley, CEO and founder of the Akron Honey Company. Thank you very much. So we're about to begin the audience's Q&A portion. We welcome questions from everyone, City Club members, guests, students, and for those joining us via live stream, if you'd like to tweet a question, please tweet it at the City Club, and our staff will try to work it in the program. So holding the microphone today is my fellow Tri-C and CSU Mandel scholars, Mackenzie Makara and Jessica No here. May we have the first question, please?
Hello. Wayne Mesker, activist and advocate. Bashir, I see you're starting your mayoral campaign already.
Yes,
Count me in.
Yes, sir.
I'm on board, definitely. But I was consulting with Ken Lancy when he ran for mayor in 2013, and I got to walk around the city and engage in different neighborhoods and see the diversity and the split between neighborhoods, and I can guarantee people in West Park could care less about the people in your neighborhood. There is that racism, that institutional racism, and there is a need to address that and build those bridges. Why are we not doing leadership exchanges? Like we have exchange students from various colleges. Leaders go to another section of the city and become involved in that community and see what the issues and the challenges are. Why are we not promoting community gardens in every community to raise that produce and provide that fresh food for our residents? Why don't we have green space where we're planting fruit trees so residents can eat right off the tree? Why don't we consider working with the Cleveland Water Department and creating that fresh water? We can bottle Ward 7 water or Ward 5 water and create jobs in those communities, bottling and distributing those waters, and have an investment in those communities.
Can I respond to that? A couple things you said. I want to introduce you all to two of my interns who are here. Timothy Roberts, you stand up. He's a junior at Lake Erie College. And Khalif, who's sitting next to him, who just graduated from Walsh Jesuit. So I want to address a couple things you said. One, it's interesting you said that because we just had some people from West Park come volunteer. So that's not always the case. There are amazing people. We know that racism is real, as self-hatred is as well, but there are some amazing people who don't live in Cleveland who do care about Cleveland, and we have to give them an opportunity. Sometimes people just don't know how to come into that space, so we have to open that space for them. And also there's people in that space who may not feel like they would like people to come into that space because of historical context. I mean, it makes sense why they feel that way, but we just have to build that bridge. That's one thing. Second thing that you said is interesting. We just had a gentleman who just left, actually, who came here from Pakistan. He was with me for 2 months, and he was here with us, and I'm actually next week going to India on an outbound program to talk about what we're doing here in Ward 7. We just planted some trees actually too, right in front of Thurgood Marshall and the Cavaliers. You know how at the finals, they go to a different part of the city and invest in the city. Well, they came to our neighborhood, the Thurgood Marshall Recreation Center, and they built a new technology center and a new health and wellness room. The point I'm saying is, there's a lot of things going on that's amazing that we just don't really know about. So what that says to me is, we are not doing a good enough job in spreading the good things that we are doing. And that the people who are spreading negativity, spreading divisiveness, spreading racism, spreading hatred, they're doing a better job than us. It says that a negative that is unified is stronger than a disunified positive. So that means that those who are spreading negative messages, they're doing a better job than us who are doing than us who are spreading positive. So that we have to do a better job. So these things are happening. I can't say what's going on around the city, but there's a lot of people who've come from Strongville and West Park, and who's come from Westlake, and who've come from Parma, who are right in the hood. Okay, you know when I say hood, you know what that means, right? They're right on Huff, right on St. Clair, and they are helping us plant trees. So there's some great people everywhere. We just have to, sometimes they don't even want people to know that they're doing it. That's another thing. They're just doing it. But what I can say, I appreciate that. I don't, this is not a mayoral campaign speech. I can say that, that what you're talking about, and you're a great activist too. You've been doing a lot of work in this community for a long time, and we have to support you and support others who are like you. Very important.
First, I just want to say that everything that you guys said just really resonated with me today, and I really appreciated this panel. But this question is for Ms. Matos. You said that the REACH program is like trying to build relationships with like the corner stores and the residents. Like, what are you guys doing in that program that is helping build the trust in the neighborhood?
So that program is called the Good Food Here program. And it was a 5-year CDC-funded grant that actually HIP Cuyahoga received. So HIP Cuyahoga is a county-wide health improvement partnership consortium. And so the Good Food Here program, what it did was when we identified residents from those neighborhoods, identified stores that they thought might be amenable to having healthier items, because some of them were not at all amenable. We'd had this eligibility policy right at the beginning called sort of a gut check. If you went in there and you knew that, you know, maybe there wasn't like actual food being sold at this store, or, you know, what was going on, then that was not an eligible store. But other stores that, you know, maybe had several rows of shelves and lots of different food items, then there was a dialogue that started with the store owner in which, you know, we said, would you be interested in, you know, elevating your community around you by providing healthier items in your store? You know, not all of them were interested in that, but then the ones that were really are actually interested in contributing to the community. So, so then now what we're doing is we have teams of residents in each of those neighborhoods that we worked in that sort of check in on the store all the time. You know, like, oh, I see all this yogurt is expired. You know, but can you remove this and put in, you know, more fresh items here? We did actually have some requirements around what we asked them to bring in. So, you know, sort of nutritionally healthy things like whole grain breads and low-fat milks and that kind of thing. But just in general, having fruit and vegetable there on display. And the store owners that have risen, the stores and the store owners that have risen to the top, you know, actually are very interested in contributing to the communities. So, I mean, that's, and then what they're doing is visible in the community. So then the community started asking questions like, well, why all of a sudden are there all these healthier items here? You know, does he actually, maybe he does care about what's going on in this community. So, I mean, it's baby steps, and it's only been in place for the past 4 years, and we're only to that point, you know? I mean, I think that distrust runs very deep.
Can I touch on that for a second? The majority of the businesses that are owned in the inner city, many of them are owned by Palestinians. And I was sitting with one of the heads of the organization because they're very well connected together. And I sat and I said, how do you come from a place of being occupied and being oppressed as we see of what's going on? I mean, let's be honest, we're seeing the oppression of Palestinian people. How do you come to America and bring this sense of oppression to the people who have experienced oppression in this country? So sometimes we have to be culturally competent in understanding people and being able to speak to the heart of who they are. And that resounded with him. That resounded with him. Now some just don't care, and those people we just have other ways in dealing with them. But for those who can feel the passion in their heart for people, you know, you're going to find that they're going to be most of assistance to those. And for those who don't, we just have to deal with them a different way, which is don't spend your money there and allow us to handle it from the city's perspective and making sure that they do what they're supposed to do.
Because the store owners are not doing it because they're getting rich. They're not going to get rich selling apples. You know, it just is not, it's not going to happen. So they're doing it, I mean, ostensibly out of the goodness of their heart and because they care, you know. So speaking to that
Even
element.
though if as a community we required it more, you know, they could make some more money. Because there are organizations and businesses that make a lot of money off of, you know, us trying to eat healthy. But like you said, they're not really, they definitely make more money off of cigarettes and tobacco and alcohol than they do. And that's why when you threaten these liquor licenses, they'll bring all the apples you want in there, won't they?
True.
You have bananas and oranges all over the place, man.
Right.
Just don't take the 40 ounce, but you know, we'll keep.
Right.
And there are growing models in the community to address some of those concerns.
Yeah.
One of the projects that a number of folks have been working on, the City Planning Commission, Cuyahoga County Board of Health, community members about addressing food deserts. I mean, if you don't know it, we're sitting in, Cleveland is a huge food desert. 50% of the city is a food desert. But there are opportunities when owners come in to say you must engage the community. We're seeing that happen in the Buckeye community. There were some specific things that were asked for. Are you willing to engage with the community and the community coming together to say, in order for you to open this store in our community and to receive support, we want to see individuals from the neighborhood being employed in this store. These are the kinds of services that we want to be provided by this store, and here are some of the products that we would like to be in our store. And so that business owner has been very amenable and has worked with the community, worked with political allies in Euclid to establish a store, and Simons will be opening if it's not open right now. And so that was a model that has worked through the political process, the systems process, and the community process in order to create something that we believe is going to benefit the community.
Voting matters.
It does.
We're gonna have one more question with our remaining time. Your boy was thirsty.
All right, so this question is sort of posed to everyone, including you as well, Mr. Mesker. Everyone pretty much brought up the idea of people within the community growing their own livestock or having their own pretty much availability towards
No livestock.
Produce.
well, produce. So pretty much just their own availability towards those different products, like healthier alternatives. My question to you all would be sort of a two-parter. Do you think that it would be easier for people to maybe learn classroom-wise how to do that, and so that they could pick up more, or do you think it would be easier to maybe just bring in, maybe outsource experts or bigger companies to have the availability to have all those items?
Seems like she knows the answer right there.
Yeah.
I belong to a CSA.
Yeah, please.
I belonged to a CSA a couple years ago called Rising Harvest Farm. It's on the west side, and it's through Koinonia. And what they did is they took, I think maybe it would have been a park at one time, but it was like almost an entire city block, and turned it into farmland. So they, and I love how it's so integrated. They take mentally disabled people and teach them skills. They bring in money by having people join the CSA. They take the leftovers to the food bank, I think to Brookside. And so I just love how that's like integrated. It's right in the middle of a neighborhood. All the houses are around. They see what's being grown. They're curious about it. Unfortunately, they did have to put up a fence because, you know, people just kind of want to come in and destroy things sometimes. But just the exposure to having that being grown in front of you, even if you're not growing it yourself, you have quick access to it. And I think that's a big issue, because when you're working all day and you're tired, you're not going to want to tend your garden. I know that myself from experience. And I think if you put food in front of people, you also have to tell them what to do with it. Because I would get things from the CSA like, what is this and what do I do with it? How do I cook it? But again, I was exposed to so many different wonderful foods that are fresh, they're organic, and that's what you want to put in people's backyards. And I think that model, that concept, is a great thing to bring to all of our neighborhoods, no matter where we are in the city.
Yeah. There's a group here called Riddall. I don't know if you're familiar with Riddall. And we're actually bringing them over to Ward 7 to develop our own farmers market. That's what we're working on now. But like you said, you hit it right on the head. If we establish these places where people can eat healthy food, you know, a man once said that if a person only has dirty drinking water and they're thirsty, well, that's what they're going to drink. But if they have an option between dirty drinking water and clean water, they'll take the clean water. So we as a community, all of us, every last one of us, has to engage in providing people an opportunity of healthy access. Because you either pay now or pay later, but you're going to pay. You're going to pay for your negligence of those who are the least of us. You're going to pay for it, whether it's in this life or the next life, you know. So I just think that we should all, we should all care about what's happening to the world around us. This is very important.
Can I answer your question real quick? I think both of those things have to happen at the same time. And I think you have to be very selective with who you decide to bring in as an expert. You know, it would be great to have experts who have not only have some success with it, but who look like those people, who've gone through what those people have gone through and go through what they're going through right now. But also different ways to kind of integrate it in their current lifestyles. Because I can tell you this right now, we moved from East Cleveland, when I was 6, we moved East Cleveland to Aurora, Ohio in the 80s. And that was like shocking, you know what I mean? We went from the hood to country, and it's a complete different mindset and lifestyle out there. So folks, you know, out in Aurora, yeah, you know, it got some steam left at the end of the day where you can go home and tend to the garden. It's like fun, but it's burdensome for a lot of folks who don't live that way. You know, maybe they walked 5 blocks, you know, after working long hours and making minimum wage. It's a different animal.
And then there's opportunities and understanding what's available in the community. If you look at their groups, and I'll just say food access raises everyone. There are groups of people in our community who are working to address that issue, to bring in expertise to help produce locally those opportunities for education. I'm also proud to say that there are industrial kitchens being developed across the city. In Glenville, the food market, the Eastside Market has developed a phenomenal industrial kitchen that will be designed to teach members of the community, will be open to the community, not only to address health issues, but also, okay, you have a chronic health condition. Well, you can buy healthy produce right here. You don't know how to cook it? Come to the industrial kitchen, we'll show you how to cook it. And so there are folks in the community, Vel Scott, Healthy Living Kitchen, folks like that who are prime to support anybody who wants to learn how to eat and live better. So understanding where those resources are.
Bless him. Thank you all. Thank you.
So today at the City Club we have been enjoying our first college forum. a conversation that answers, in part, this question: why does soda cost less than water at the corner store? Featuring Bashir Jones, City of Cleveland Councilman for Ward 7, Anna Thornton Matos, REACH Project Manager in the Prevention Research Center for Healthy Neighborhoods at Case Western Reserve University, Francis Miles, Director of Community Health Initiatives for the Cleveland Office of Minority Health, Healthy Cleveland, and Brand Wesley, CEO and founder of the Akron Honey Company. We thank the students, faculty at the Jack Joseph and Morton Honors College at Cleveland State University and the Jack Joseph and Morton Humanities Center at Cuyahoga Community College for their efforts in coordinating today's forum. And that brings us to the end. Thank you, Councilman Jones, Mrs. Thornton Matos, Mrs. Miles, and Mr. Wesley. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org. Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream are made possible by the generous support of PNC and the Raskin Family Fund, with additional funding from Robert Conrad, Cleveland State University, the Chautauqua Institution, the Cleveland Clinic, and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland Incorporated.